All right, that was MAROMARO Guitar Battle, full season one. We were talking about 50 is the new 20 and how white people are the dumbest people because they think they're smart.
And you know what? Yeah, so we'll get into the 50 is the new 20 after, but I should add, it's more that white liberals are the dumbest, the dumbest of the dumb. Because as far as I can tell, and I'm not saying that white conservatives don't have their version of it, because they do. I'm just not around it as much. And on occasion when I am around it, I'm reminded, and I'm like, oh my God, it's not just the white liberals. But the white liberals have an arrogance to them that the white conservatives don't, in my experience.
Yeah.
The white conservatives, it's more just, it's harder to describe it, just because I don't know. I'm around it less, so I guess it's harder for me to describe. But there's something there that they have their own arrogance. But I think the difference between the in my experience, the difference between the white conservative and the white liberal is the white conservative is arrogant, but the white liberal is smugglering. Because it has the arrogance mixed with the smugness that I found the conservatives don't quite have. Mm-hmm. The conservatives, I found them to be, and generally speaking, more humble, where the white liberal feels like they know it all. Whereas the white conservative is like, no, we're not claiming to know it all. Like, we stick to, like, whatever, the Bible or the Torah, or, and a few sources, but they're not like claiming to know it all. Whereas the white liberal is like, no, we know it all. And if we aren't into it, it's because it's bullshit. And so when I try to tell the health stuff to again, especially white liberal, and I guess it's also because I was talking about this stuff in the context of health. And since COVID, the white liberal, when it comes to matters of health and medicalness, the white liberal became more Nazified when it came to that subject matter. Mm-hmm. Whereas I don't really understand why the white conservative didn't. Maybe just because the white liberal also in lockstep, goose-stepped to the Nazi dictates that came out during COVID. Like, that's ultimately like what I was trying to say to Jeff. Jeff was like, you're telling me I'm Adolf Hitler. And it's like, no, it's basically that you've gotten brainwashed by a bunch of Nazi garbage and you're becoming a Nazi now. That doesn't mean you are a Nazi. It just means that you are what you eat. And so now this is what you intake, and now you become this smuggerant person. You have this arrogance and this smugness, like you know something. Well, because there's like that ancient saying that like the curse is to think you know but you don't know, and the gift is to think you don't know but you know. So you'll know, but you'll have the humility that it's fluid and that things could change over time, and then you can change your understanding of it. As opposed to, say, for example, like with COVID, people like Fauci were out there being like, I am the science. If you disagree with me, you disagree with the science. So you are against the science. And like, how the fuck anyone could hear that and not vomit in their mouth, just goes to show how fucking retarded they are. But they don't know it because they're like, anyone who disagrees with me is a Trumper. And so I don't want to be a Trumper. And so I will believe in this.
Right.
Just like, Russiagate, it's just nonsense. And it's like, yeah, there's still people that believe in that shit, and they're like, no, it's like, don't you get, like, tell me what he has done for Russia that, compared to what he has done for Israel. And then tell me either that you're retarded or that you realized you got bamboozled. And if they can't admit they got bamboozled, I'm just like, I'm sorry, but you're fucking retarded. And you're kind of not worth my time to speak to. But I'll tell you what, I basically never come in contact with that mentality when I talk to a non-white person. When I talk to a non-white person, I never, ever come upon smugglers. Like, and I'm not saying there aren't exceptions to this rule, because I'm sure there are, and it's probably the people that got brainwashed by the white liberal nonsense.
Right.
Know?
Yeah, absolutely. When I think there's a sense of street smarts versus book smarts. And that there's, if you've had like a lot of more like life experience and stuff like that, it's like they're like, yeah, it's like the man. Right? It's like the man trying to keep you down. Well, is the man Republican or Democrat? No, all of them.
Yes,
it's like,
no,
they all suck. I've had Republican mayors and Democratic mayors, and the cops were still beating the shit out of me either way. It's the idea that politics is anything more than just like a cover story, a farce, something that we can use to blame for the shit that's actually going on.
Yep.
As if Trump or any president is actually making any fucking decisions besides what they want to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, when and where they're going to golf, and like
maybe they get to choose between option A, B, or C, but options A, B, and C are handed to them, and that's what they get to choose from.
And I think it's like, so would you like to choose option A, B, or C?
Right. It's like maybe like, B. No. You don't want to pick B.
Yeah. So
maybe C. No. You don't want to take C either. So I guess A. Yes, great choice. Great choice.
Well, the president is like hovering over the choices, trying to get like, so do you? What about A? And they're like, yes. Oh,
yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, yeah, of course. I knew that. I knew A was the obvious best choice.
Right. And you all chose this. We didn't make you do anything. You chose this of your own free will. And it's like, oh, I guess I did. It's like, that's right. This is your fault now. It's like, oh, I guess it is my fault. It's like, wait, did you really choose anything other than you chose between the red tie and the blue tie on this one day? Well,
it's like, so you're telling me if I had chose B or C, it would have been better?
Yeah, right. No,
but you're not supposed to ask that question.
Yeah, exactly. Who's this guy? Get him out of here. He's asking troublesome questions. It's like I was just leaving the building to come out here and walk around and for the podcast, and there was this black dude who's a security guard there because whatever, the elevator's broken. And I just as I'm walking on, I overhear him be like, man, I've been on these blood pressure medications and I'm not liking it and I want to get off it. And I just like stop and I'm like, dude, do what you can to get off them. There are natural ways to deal with blood pressure, and these medications are fucking poison. He's like, right? And I'm like, yeah, because it's like when you talk to a non-white person, they get it. They know to be skeptical.
Well, it doesn't need to come from a fucking peer-reviewed journal.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more trust of the reports, the experiences of other people. Because if you have been Black in this country in the past 100 years or something, it's like the white people are like, the police are great. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah,
all the
yeah,
black people
yeah.
are like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
I've got
yep.
cousins and brothers and parents and whatever that's
Uh-huh,
gotten
uh-huh.
beaten and no one ever says anything. Nothing ever happens. And like,
Mm-hmm.
no, come on, like that you almost can't trust the media. You
Yep.
can't because you've
Yep.
got brothers and sisters and shit like that just getting beat the fuck out of. It's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa. So yeah, I think there's a little bit more openness to the idea of personal reports, and
Mm-hmm.
you see that too in uh medicine and therapy and stuff like that. That people
Mm-hmm.
will report certain things, and they're like, well, that's just like one person's experience, like until it can be repeated. Or it's
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
took
yeah.
this medicine and my arm fell off, and it's like,
Yeah,
whoa,
yeah.
whoa, whoa, slow down.
Yeah, yeah,
we'll
yeah. That's your
we'll study
anecdotal.
that. Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
thank you, anecdotal evidence. So hold on, we'll study it for 3 or 6 years, and if enough other people's arms fall off, then
Yeah.
okay, maybe
Maybe.
we got something. But correlation is not causation, you see.
Exactly,
And we
exactly.
need, it's like, but my arm fell off. It's like,
Yeah, right.
oh, well, okay, maybe I won't take that fucking medicine
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
that media is
It's like
saying, but my cousin and my friend who took it, their arm fell off 2 days
yep,
later after taking the medicine.
yep, exactly.
So I think there's a trust more of anecdotal
Absolutely.
evidence than medical evidence. Than what's not anecdotal?
Yeah,
Evidentiary? What isn't
yeah.
anecdotal? Oh,
No,
I don't know.
exactly. And not to mention, once you understand that the vast majority of studies are funded by the industry themselves, so there's this huge conflict of interest, and then they scrap a lot of the studies that don't show the results that they want, and then they include the ones
Right,
and game them.
reproducibility paradox or
Yep.
whatever.
Right, because there's like that study that basically shows that like some alarmingly high number of studies in the medical field just can't be reproduced. Like they just can't. Like, well, here's the results, and it's like, well, when we tried to run it again, it didn't happen that way. And
Which
it's
is one
like,
of the fundamentals of science, is that it's supposed to be reproduced.
exactly,
So it's like
exactly.
ignoring their own fucking rules. Well, because I need to get tenure, bitch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that's why I love that saying that scientific progress happens one funeral at a time. Because you need those people to die who held the patents, who created commercial empires based on those patents, based on that the questionable science. And then once they've died and they no longer have a vested interest in destroying anything that calls into question their findings and their market share, then maybe something new can come along and be like, hey guys, you see, you didn't get this right. Like the Alzheimer's shit, like the whole understanding of Alzheimer's based on these studies, and then those studies were basically complete and total fraud. And so like so much of the Alzheimer's industry has been based on scientific fraud. But those products are still out there. The vast majority of people are unaware of that. Like just like many people are unaware like how flawed the COVID pseudoscience was. They still like I was gonna send it to you today. That guy Matt Orfala, does that ring a bell?
I'm just bad at
he
names. No, but it might, as you say, more. But no, I don't think so. Nothing's coming to my mind.
His name's not, it's not that important other than what he basically does is he makes these compilations of footage from the internet, and then like, so for example, he he like makes these compilations of like, I can send you one afterwards, where it's like it was like an 11-minute compilation video basically of all the people during COVID being like, if you don't get this vaccine, you're gonna die. If you don't get this vaccine, like, we should not allow you to participate in society. If
Yes, of
you don't
course.
get this vaccine, we should be able to deny you healthcare treatment. If you're sick and didn't get the vaccine, we should be allowed to not treat you. Saying these things like, if you get the vaccine, you will not get COVID. And if, because if
You got to
COVID,
flatten the curve, and because
yeah,
it's going to go away as long as we flatten the
yep,
curve. It'll
flatten
go
the
away in a
curve,
month or two or something.
right?
It
And
was so clearly, it was so clear that was why I still remember being a little bit on the look. If everybody just needs to get the vaccine and this will go away, like what is the problem? Okay, let's just get okay, so there's a enemy and you can defeat it this way. But then as time went on, it was like, oh wait, that is so not what is happening. I mean, and it's like they would
exactly,
say one thing, it'd be like, yeah, we're gonna get rid of it, and then the next thing's be like, herd immunity and everyone's going to get it eventually. It's like, well, fucking choose one, motherfucker. Like,
yeah, right,
what is
right,
going on here? How are both of these somehow existing? I mean, at
yeah.
first, though, it was just everybody get the vaccine. We can defeat this. It'll go away in a month, flatten the curve, blah, blah, blah. Why are you even arguing? Shoot the 3-pointer and make it, motherfucker. Like,
Yeah,
what's
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
issue?
Exactly. And
Wow.
it's wild to watch these compilations now because people forget. But it's like, dude, it's right here. All this. So I remember when the Daily Show used to be like not a sack of shit. And the Daily Show was like a place. And look, and I was younger and naive and more of a liberal back then. So I just didn't know better. But they used to do good work in that they would show like whatever, like a clip of all these different government officials and, people from the New York Times, people from CNN, people from Fox, all saying, like, Iraq has WMDs. Iraq has WMDs. They have the weapons of mass destruction. And then using the exact same verbiage, and then they would make these compilations. And when you just saw it that way, of everyone saying the same fucking line, like verbatim, it was pretty like, it was just pretty axiomatic that, wow, this is literally propaganda, And that was like, in my opinion, the best thing that the Daily Show did. It would do that. And so like these compilations are basically that. But if like the Daily Show hadn't become just whatever, just, Nazi slop, that was just like, well, because the Republicans are this side of the Nazi arm and then the Democrats are that side of the Nazi arm. But of course, each side thinks they're truly the good guy and the other side is just clearly the bad guy. But really they're working for the same people. And it's like the Daily Show. And that's why like it was interesting when Jon Stewart infamously went on Stephen Colbert's show and did that whole Wuhan lab thing. Do you remember that? Where he was like talking about, this was during COVID, when he was talking about how it came out of the lab in Wuhan. And
Yes.
Stephen Colbert was like, what are you doing? Like, you can't do this. And Stephen Colbert lifted his mug to drink from it, to do the classic, I drink from the cup and I spit it out in shock and disbelief. Because, oh my God, Jon Stewart, are you becoming a Trumper because you think this might have come from a lab? Because that's right. Remember, it was when it was just like, you have to be a racist conspiracy theorist to think that it might have come from a lab. And
well, and that was, I remember, I really dislike Trump and everything, but I still remember him saying Kung flu.
Yep.
And I was thinking, you know what? There's a chance, at least, that the president of the United States, in terms of getting intelligence information, maybe getting some good information. You would expect,
right? Yeah.
They might know some shit or being told some shit by their intelligence briefings and stuff. And if they were basically telling him, yeah, it seems like it came from here, and then he's probably not supposed to say that shit, but of course then he does. Says it's the Kung flu thing. I remember thinking, well, maybe there's something to that. Like, if there's anybody that might know, it might be the president of the United States. Oh, and he got blasted for it too. I still remember that.
Yeah,
Because it's
yeah,
such a rude fucking way to say it. It's like,
yeah, 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 totally.
like, oh my God. Like,
But
but
Dave
yeah,
Chappelle,
anyway, yeah.
you ever hear Dave Chappelle talk about that? Chappelle is like, the president should be saying shit like that. But that being said, that was some funny shit what he said.
Yeah, oh, well,
He's like,
sure.
that's a great joke.
Yeah.
But but okay, so I don't know if you got to check out that thing I sent you with Jimmy Dore and that I think is Dr. Martin. But Dr. Martin lays down the real timeline of COVID
Mm.
and in a way that I want to listen to it again because he really breaks it down in a very thorough way. And he actually, and this is where,
Sony
I
recently announced that
sometimes
they'll
get
be
a little,
deleting.
Sorry, I was trying to get it going.
oh, it's okay. It's okay.
Keep going.
And basically, like, sometimes I get a little rubbed wrong by the people who go after the
Most people
other
think
people in like in a way like Jack Cruz. The way Jack Cruz is like, for example, like I've heard him many times, like or a few times, be asked about what he thinks about Whitney Webb or Catherine Austin Fitts, and he's like, "Look, I like them; they do good work, but there are pieces of the puzzle that they're missing," and that's where he's basically was his stance. But then, somewhat recently, I saw like within the past couple of months, I saw Catherine Austin Fitts. She's like, Jack Cruz is like big into Bitcoin. Catherine Austin Fitts is not, and I guess she was just talking about things in general, and also included talked a little shit about Bitcoin. And then Jack Cruz was basically like, "All right, that's it. I'm out on Catherine Austin Fitts. She's like a disinformation agent." And I was kind of like, "Come on, dude." Like
just that, like, well,
yeah.
that's still on brand for him, though. Come on, fucking.
I know.
Like, but yeah, no, just because I don't want to buy into Bitcoin, I'm like a shill now. Like, oh
yeah,
God, okay,
exactly,
well,
exactly. And honestly, I'm not going to go so far as to say he's wrong because I respect him so much that I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to say, like, look, I would say to him, I don't think that she's a paid shill or a disinformation agent. I just think Bitcoin is something either she hasn't looked into that deeply or doesn't understand the way that you do. And I would love to hear you guys discuss it and disagree about it, as opposed to just calling her a disinformation agent.
Yeah.
But that being said, so I'm trying to say it rubs me wrong when I hear people who I think are both on the good side, on the side of good, but disagree on some things, and then they fight each other. Like when Alex Jones was going after Candace Owens, and I was just like, why? What's going on here? Like, what's the reason for this? And he was like, if Candace Owens says that water is not doesn't freeze, ice, water doesn't freeze at 30, then of course she must be right because she's Candace Owens. And it's like, why do you keep on saying that? Why don't you just say what you think she got wrong, which is like the Camp Huachuca stuff, and say why you think it was wrong, as opposed to just like, otherwise it seems like one of you is a bad actor, and I'm going to think it's you, not her, so far. But I would rather, I just kind of think that, like, I guess I'm into truth and I'm not into the infighting thing. But if someone really is a fucking limited hangout or disinformation agent, then yeah, I would appreciate people who are the real deal pointing that out. And like I've heard like Whitney Webb talk about, say, like Joe Kent. Joe Kent. He's that guy that worked for Trump that resigned.
Yes.
At the very
yeah.
And he's someone that I'm like, I don't know. I'm a little skeptical about how fast he became a riser in the Ian Carroll way. Like, kind of like he became this big figure in the independent alternative media world. And Whitney Webb was basically like, look, I'm open to him being a good guy, but I'm also a little skeptical. And so I think that's fair. But at the same time, most of what I've heard from Joe Kent, I've really liked, and nothing has really given me a red flag other than, I don't know, he has his own ideological biases just like I do, and we might not be fully aligned, but that's fine. Like, whenever he does come around and start telling us that whatever the COVID jabs are safe and effective, or that 9/11 was not some inside job, then I'll be like, okay, now I'm skeptical of this person. But and the guy that Dr. Martin, when he was on Jimmy Dore, he was basically he was shitting on Senator Ron Johnson, who's a Republican, who is one of the only senators that is, I mean, and look, it's a low fucking bar, but he's been one of the only senators, whereas Bernie Sanders has been like fucking horrible, you know? And that's another reason why I'm like, Bernie Sanders is dog shit to me. Like what he did during COVID, and he still won't apologize for it. Whereas like Tucker Carlson fell for the neocon bullshit with 9/11 and to hate the Muslims. But he at least came out and apologized. It was many years later, but he's come out and apologized and has made 9/11 videos and is critical of the Iran war, is critical of the COVID shit. I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying Tucker Carlson's perfect and I agree with him on everything, but like, I think he's done a lot of good work. And he's really pleasantly surprised me because I just thought he was just some Fox News, CNN jackass, but he's come out there and he's given a platform to a lot of the people who I really respect and admire. And I just think it's important, some of the work he's done. But like Jack Cruz is like, no, Tucker Carlson's controlled opposition. He's part of the bad guys, kind of the way that like Brett Weinstein and Eric Weinstein, and a lot of people think they're like controlled opposition. Like that video you showed me, Brett Weinstein and Eric Weinstein.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is weird stuff about them, and I could totally see that, how they're like some form of a limited hangout.
Yeah.
Like, and Eric Weinstein, it seems pretty obvious to me because he's like super brilliant, but he was like works with Peter Thiel, so that kind of kind of disqualifies him for me a bit. But Brett Weinstein's done a lot of good work, even though like he did attack Whitney Webb, and that really bothered me.
Boo! Boo!
Yeah. And he tried to call her a black pill. Remember we talked months ago about the black pill psyop, So people like Brett Weinstein were coming along and be like, we're trying to red people. People like Whitney Webb are black pilling people. And it's like, and that basically is, I would say, part of the definition of being a limited hangout, which is where you reveal some lesser known truths and you develop credibility from that. But now you're this controlled opposition figure that can like shepherd the flock away from the real truth by just giving you little bits of truth, which is basically what like Dr. Judy Wood was claiming about a lot of the 9/11 truth movement, right? With like Niels Harrit and Stephen Jones. And she was like, these guys are crooked, And maybe they were, but she was doing like kind of like a Jack Cruz thing where she was shitting on a lot of people that have done, or it seems like have done a lot of good work. But she was also presenting a hypothesis or a theory that, that runs contrary, like that they're using these kind of high energy, directed energy weapons as opposed to controlled demolition, which seemed more plausible because like space lasers just seemed too sci-fi, but rigging a building with the explosives, like, oh, that's something that they do all the time, as opposed to some, what I'm talking about, like saying super wealthy corporations are rigging a game so they can make tons of money. Yeah, people might call that a conspiracy theory, but it's not like you're saying they're space aliens, that, because the space alien thing just sounds sci-fi to people and sounds ridiculous. And they say, but how can they traverse such a great distance? That's just not possible. And it's like, well, it's not possible compared to our present understanding, but that doesn't mean, or our present publicly
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
released understanding.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean that in time we won't know more, or that presently we don't know more, but it's just not publicly available. And I'm just saying, when you're trying to talk to a normie, like, and you're going to bring up space aliens, you're probably going to lose more people than saying whatever, whether it's big pharma is rigging it for profits or big oil is rigging something for profits. You know, then they're like, oh, climate change, I can get behind the climate change conspiracy theory and just say that big oil is clearly going to spend lots of money to suppress that knowledge because that would impact their profits. You know, they can get behind that conspiracy theory. But once you say, wait, big pharma is gaming the vaccine study, like, no, you don't talk bad about Lord Jesus Christ vaccine, you know, Jesus Christ vaccine star, you know, because that's really, like, vaccines really are a religion at this point, you know. Like, when you tell people, hey, how am I anti-vax for being against the COVID vax? Because that wasn't even a vaccine. They're like, what are you talking about? And it's like, no, it was not. It's experimental gene therapy that they called a vaccine, but it wasn't a vaccine. And they had to literally change the definition of the word vaccine, that because before COVID, vaccine meant something you give someone that would give them immunity to that illness. Once they were preparing to unleash the MAGA jabs, by the way, the fucking MAGA jabs, because that's what they were. They were MAGA jabs. These were Trump, you know, Operation Warp Speed vaccines that Democrat pundits and politicians were going on TV and saying, while Trump was president, that they would not take that vaccine. But once Biden won the election, the exact same fucking vaccines, all of a sudden, those Democrat pundits and politicians start saying, anyone who doesn't take those vaccines should be either, you know, cut off from the world, or as Chomsky would say, put them in a concentration camp, you know? And it's like, wait a second, just a month ago, you were saying you wouldn't take it because Trump was president. The exact same fucking vaccine. These were MAGA jabs, you know? And that's why when Trump went on the campaign trail, it was going on, oh, how amazing are these vaccines? Then he started getting booed for saying that. He stopped saying that as much, you know, because he was like, whoa, my crowd doesn't like this, but these were my vaccines, you know? These were my experimental gene therapies that are wreaking havoc on health. And to bring it back, when you try to say this to the normal white person, they're like, whoa, are you saying Jesus Christ did not die for our sins? And it's like, you know, because like you're questioning their religion basically, you know. But if you talk to a non-white person, like this other black dude who's a security guard here, a different security guard, he was just telling me that I've kind of just become buddies with recently. He was telling me all about, like, his leg is all fucked up. I'm like, what's wrong? What happened? He was like, I'll tell you. He was like, and he like looked around first to make sure no one was listening. And then he was like, I'll tell you, I didn't want to get it because of my job, though. They made me get the COVID shot. And when I got the shot, my leg got fucked up. It was like he got a shot in the arm, but his leg got fucked up right after the shot. And ever since then, that was years ago, his leg has never been the same. And I'm like, all right, dude. I'm like, here's the deal. You go to your doctor, he'll ignore you or deny that happened. You need to go outside of that to heal yourself. And I started telling him different things, like there's like dandelion root extract, there's nattokinase, there are these other things and some other doctors that he has to look into that can help him heal. Because when he goes to his doctor is just going to deny that, oh no, it couldn't have been that, you know? And it's fucked up. It's fucked, and it's not about being white or black or anything. What it really is like trusting the institutions, and the average black person doesn't have good reason to trust the institution. The average white person maybe does, because the system so far has worked for them, So it makes sense that they have a trust that non-white people don't necessarily have. But it's not about white or black. It's really just about whether the system works for you or not. And if I go on, like, to say, for example, like the zero hedge comment section, it's like those are people that this system is very much has been working against for a long fucking time. So those people have the same skepticism as me or a non-white person, because the system's not working for them. But when you talk to some person, whether liberal or conservative, like, it's not about that really, even though it's just, the self-identified liberal, the system has generally been working for them more than otherwise, at least propaganda-wise, like, they're the ones that have the most faith in institutional analysis. Whereas to me, I'm just like, well, that's why I heard it recently also, something I really like, that if you're going to, the only way to get really, really, really dumb is to become an academic. And like, because it's kind of like that Mark Twain quote, there are three types of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics, But people that the system works for, they just believe the statistics. They're like, well, here it is. Everything else is just conjecture and conspiracy theory. Here's the official data. Do you want to be a conspiracy theorist? I don't, and so I'll go with the official data. And yeah, it's like Plato's cave. When you get released, oh, like that video I just sent you from Chase Hughes, he said it great. He goes, the moral or the punchline that Plato understood 2,400 years ago, that the Matrix and the Truman Show also illustrate, is that the people who born and raised in the cave thinking the shadows on the wall are reality, and then the one who gets freed and sees the real world and goes back down to save them, they're not happy about it. In fact, they want to kill him for coming back down and trying to save them. And what that system, the reality, the Plato's cave reality, what it's done is it's taught the people in the cave to perceive rescue as an attack, right? To perceive rescue as an attack, right? So when people like you and I when you try to go to your mom and try to tell her, like, Mom, you shouldn't be taking another booster, she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. She's like, and you're like, oh, like, well, look, you like, what's the point? And she's like, whatever, I'm gonna go get it. And then she gets it and gets really sick. And you're like, okay, I tried to warn you. And hopefully next time she won't, maybe she didn't perceive it as an attack from you. But the average person, when I would try to tell them, and that's why it's like I had to become better at figuring out who was receptive and who wasn't, So I used to tell you, like, I never wanted Steph and Odin to, have to suffer for my viewpoints, because they just wanted to be normal and accepted in our community, where to me, I was just kind of like fuck these people, and you just got to learn who you can share the information with and who you can't. Like, because I want to share that compilation. I want to send it like on a mass text to like everyone. Be like, it's my 50th birthday. Everyone, as my birthday present, please just watch this video. That's all I'm asking. Just watch this video.
That's awesome.
But I bet you most of them, if they watch it, they'd be like, why is he sending me this? I still agree with all of this,
Well, yeah, of course.
And they'd be like, okay, maybe I no longer believe because they all got the shot and they all got COVID. And like
Yeah.
a nice chunk of this compilation
Yeah.
is Fauci and Rachel Maddow and Walensky, the head of the CDC, and Biden, all saying, if you get this shot, you do not get COVID and you do not pass it on to anyone
Right.
else.
Right.
And they all clearly know that is not the truth anymore, or I should hope.
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Uh, uh. And honestly, man, you helped me so much with this because I can just give my raw, unfiltered thoughts to you,
Yeah.
and 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 that's allowed me to be more selective with who I share these thoughts with. Like when I told you about going to my dad's for the
Yes.
tennis,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
them, and I got to make that choice, and I'm glad I didn't take the bait, even though part of me, felt bad about it.
Right. Right.
And I don't feel nearly as bad now.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, I just saw my dad on Sunday. He came in to take me out to dinner for my birthday, and we actually had like the best connection we've had in like years. And he actually, when me and him were out at dinner, he was like, I want to show you this video. And he showed me this 10-minute video. Dude, he showed me a 10-minute clip from the Y files. You know the Y files?
Sure, of course.
Right? But my dad
With the talking
like,
goldfish?
yes, yes. My dad showed me a clip from the Y files all about
which one? Yeah, which one?
Psilocybin mushrooms.
Uh-huh.
All about like, Terence McKenna, the stoned ape theory,
Sure.
the Holy Cross and the mushroom,
Sure.
that kind of thing,
Sure.
and that psilocybin actually has, a much better track record with helping with depression and anxiety than the antidepressants and the anti-anxiety medications.
Yeah.
And that it like really actually helps like regrow connections within the brain.
Neurogenesis. I was just talking about this. Yeah.
Yes. And it was just great. My dad sharing the stuff with me, and I knew most of it already.
Right.
It was just exciting that he was sharing it with me.
Of course.
And because I used to tell him about mushrooms decades ago, and he was like, no, but now it's like, wait a second. Like, whoa, there's something to this. And
that he's even willing to watch the Y files. You know what I mean? That's like huge.
Right?
That's huge. Because isn't he kind of like norm town? You know what I mean? Like
he is, generally speaking,
like toe the party line, status quo kind of thing. Yeah, that's what it seemed like.
It is, but mushrooms are starting to invade that conversation.
Yeah,
mushrooms and that's great.
That and DMT, man. Lord.
Totally, which is awesome. And then, me and Dad started talking about stuff. And honestly, man, I was so excited to tell you about this. I almost wish I'd like called you right after because I was like pumped. So happy. Yeah, I was so pumped. And I was like we even talked about the Israel stuff a little bit. But I basically was just like, while we were talking, I was like, just calm down. Breathe. Calmer than you, dude. Like, be very dude. I was like trying to calm myself down, and it worked. Because otherwise I would have been like, no, like whatever. He was saying his normal kind of Zionist bullshit. And I was just like letting him say it and listening. And, he was like talking about the 6-Day War and how they attacked first. And I was just, and I was like, well, are you 100% sure they attacked first? He's like, yes. And I'm like, are you 100%? He's like, yes. I'm like, would you give me 1,000 to 1 odds on $1? And he like stopped,
Oh, you put it in some terms, some terms you can understand.
Yeah, exactly. And he like stopped and was like, and I was like, whatever. And we talked, and basically and basically I don't know, because I'm such an emotional beast
Mhm.
that I become my own worst enemy sometimes, especially when talking to normies, because what I'm saying sounds like such blasphemy to them that um that especially when I get all excited and passionate about it, like it seems to really turn a lot of them off. So I've been trying to calm myself down when I talk about certain things with them. And I was doing that with my dad. And I've been trying to do that in general with other people. And I kind of sometimes have you in my head when
Mhm.
been like, hey, you've tried it the other way, it doesn't work.
Right.
Try a different way. Try
Exactly.
a
New
different way.
way. Until
Right?
until you win. It's not over until you win.
Yeah. And so then I go about it in a different way. And dude, it was almost like beautiful because I basically, as long as I didn't focus on the Z thing, the J or the Z thing, I could talk about it indirectly. And because I was basically telling him, like I told him the Ben Gurion quote, like that if
Yeah.
I had the choice to save all of the J's and 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 send them to the UK, or only save half of them and send them to Palestine, like I would do the latter. And he was kind of, he wouldn't really let that pierce his armor.
Hmm.
He was kind of like, well, whatever, those are just words.
Right.
And I'm like, I didn't even want to drive. Well, if those were his words, but doesn't that make you wonder that maybe very well they did more than words to that effect too? And but I didn't even go there because I was like, whatever. Then he's going to get extra defensive and feel extra threatened, and that'll turn off the prefrontal cortex. So don't do that. And I just said, well, look, I'm like, here's the thing. Basically, pretty much all leaders of the world are the only way you get there is by being the most ruthless, murderous bastard possible. And that's how you win power and maintain power. And he was like, yes, I agree.
Right.
And then I was like, now the main problem I have is when people think that the group that they identify with is the one exception to the rule.
Right.
Is like, my group wouldn't do that.
Right.
Everyone else
Right.
does it except
Right.
for my group.
Right.
And I basically laid that out for him. And I just basically, without saying to him, that's exactly what you're doing, without saying it that way, that's how I laid it out to him. And
Yeah.
he couldn't disagree. And
Right.
he just had to be like, okay, yes, put a point taken, because I was like talking about how like Netanyahu had funded Hamas and
Yes.
shit. And like, Dad, don't you understand like what that implies,
Yes.
and he was just like forced to put two and two together. And
Yes.
then I laid it out to him with the Epstein stuff, that basically, like you and I talked about, like first we take you into this room where there's all this alcohol and we see how you handle that. And if you want
Yes.
more, we have this other room with all this drugs, illegal drugs.
And
And if
we explicitly ask your permission before each level.
Yep,
We don't make it a secret.
yep,
This is a party. In
mm-hmm,
this room there's unlimited alcohol. Do you want to
mm-hmm,
come in? You do? You're sure? You can turn around and leave anytime you want. You do? Okay, come on in. So it's there's
mm-hmm,
the explicit, it's not through trickery. And then you just
mm-hmm,
you end up whittling it down until you get to the group of people that are like, yes, let me in. I want to get to the top. Like you're talking about, that they understand, those people understand, I must be ruthless. I'm gonna have to kill some kids to get to the top. No fucking
mm-hmm,
problem. Get me
mm-hmm,
in that room. Yes, I'm
mm-hmm.
willing. Yes, I want. Let
Yes,
me in. I know the game. I get it. I understand the evil shit I'm gonna have to do to gain power, and I want in.
yes, yes.
So it's
And
not like, oh, how did I get in this room like where I have to do these things? Oh, you tricked me,
yeah,
People are
yeah, yeah,
dying
yeah.
to get in there. People are dying to just get the invitation to the party. I've got to find
Mm-hmm,
that guy, it's a YouTuber that he moved to California. He had a number of
mm-hmm,
friends that were all trying to it was in the era of like where Mr. Beast and stuff like that was just starting up, and the YouTube, to be like a YouTuber thing was a huge big deal. And he had moved out there, and it became clear there were these super exclusive parties that would happen, and you would get these really nice invitations in the mail, and everybody wanted to go there. Anybody that wanted to try and make their way up and get a career and blah 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 blah. And he finally gets the invitation, and he goes to the first few rooms, and then he bails because he starts freaking out about it. And his friend continues, the friend that he went with continues to go on through, and he leaves. And when you go in, they take your phone and stuff like that. So when he leaves, he gets his phone back. He calls like an Uber or something to come pick him up, and blah blah blah. And then at that point, then it's like now you become like a target. It's like the Scientology thing. It's like, oh, okay, this person like kind of knows a little bit, and they refuse. So now let's run them out of town.
Yep.
The whole kind of like mess with your car, break into your apartment a few times, just freak you out enough where you get the fuck out of there. Yeah, it's just standard. It's standard practice, Scientology, whatever. This is standard shit.
Yep.
Until you're scared enough to get the fuck out of there, and that's what he did. Then he moved back home. He still makes videos and stuff like about, like, that was one thing about different like mysterious things, but he's not trying to like be the California, trying to get into that California power structure, which has existed for so long and seems to be super mega evil. Why is that going off? So anyway, I don't even remember why I was bringing that up, but yeah, it's clear.
Because we were talking about,
you were telling your dad about the room,
there's a strategy to it,
and that it's clear. It's not a trick. It's not trickery. They don't have to drug you to do it. They don't lie to you. They tell you exactly what it is, and they say, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Yes, I do.
Right. And I was basically, because I've tried to talk to him about it before this stuff. Like when I told him about the Ronald Bernard thing, remember Ronald Bernard? He's that Dutch banker that I've sent you that video like 10 years ago. He was the guy that was, basically was this guy. He was like a hardworking guy and an entrepreneur as a young man, and was working his way up, making a lot of money, and whatever, good at what he did, hard worker and all that. And that basically one of his clients was one of these people that was in the club. And that guy basically was older and was looking to retire. And I guess one of the deals with the club is, if you're going to retire, you have to go and find your own replacement and groom your own replacement. And so this guy, when he was looking to retire, he was starting to, he said, hey, I said to the Dutch banker, Ronald Bernard, he basically was like, hey, I'm part of this thing. I've been your client for a while, and I'm part of this thing that's much bigger than both of us. And this is basically what really, is the real movers and shakers of the world. And I'm looking to get out and retire, and I'm interested in grooming you to be my replacement. Now, if you'd be interested, we can begin that process. But the positives and negatives, like, I'm not going to fool you, because if you fool the person, that's not the right way to do it, because you might be able to fool.
You there? Not wanting to fool people. That's where we're at. Not wanting to fool. Let's text him. My phone is so slow.
You touch, can you see? I'm not going to do anything here, but see, look, it's right there. went to your back, right? Okay.是不是不行了？我只能发力把它憋出去。将来不练了，你看，一打手不给你了，拧吧。它是这样的。
给不着了。
倒过来看啊，每次他出去都是把我憋死了，我没办法了。只要我能转过来，他没事儿。你看，是不是不行了？我只能发力把它憋出去。每个人必须经过这一段擤鼻涕功，不是开玩笑。像小孩那个鼻涕再也甩不下来了，鼻涕就是连着，真粘住了，不让你跑了。两个胳膊拧着，拧。啊，不是做着动作拧。
哦。
你看，脚底下不要死啊！你可以活步。哎，这个翻过来不行哈，不能给对方背啊。那又给背了，你看，这是练这个东西，是吧？将来不练了，你看。一打手不给你了，
哎呦！你妈！
随便干什么都行，拧吧。拧。
哎呦！拧不动。上不去。
I'm going to go behind him. Can you feel it went into him? But I tuck it in a little bit. There is a line. Then I stretch here. Can you see there is a line here? And so at this point, if you know it's not useful, good. Because if it's useful, I know, seriously, you provide very strong, steady power. Don't fight with me. Just be very strong. And see, this is very, very strong. Hold it steady. If you have trouble, you hold his back, his waist, like hold him. So I want him, like hold him like this. Yeah. So that he's steady. Otherwise, his body starts to do this. So when you are steady, like you are you provide that here. So look here. At the beginning, my body, this is called scattered. Can you see my energy spreads? So I want this to go to my hand. Can you feel it starts to go here? Yeah. This is called conversion of power. At the beginning, we have muscle all over the place. But now this only goes to my fingertip. Yeah. Okay, so I got you on your shoulders. But I'm going to use here to penetrate Ken's hand. I'm going to go behind him. Can you feel it went into him? And this is very difficult because
frame left an indicator signal right at the top of that candle, right there. So on CRCL, when we were looking at this larger harmonic, right, a macro harmonic, we were like, hey, listen, it's got an indicator signal up here as it's trending down. So we know that it can go there with 95% success, but first we got to trend in that direction. So we look for a reversal signal. Hey, look, the daily having 97 touches of bullish divergence is a good start. So we take some risk. Now it's breaking out, and it broke the 236. We are now trending in that direction. Whether it takes a week or a month or 6 months to get to this target, I'm fairly confident it's going to get there. So why would I give up my trade, even though it's up 31%? Why would I give up my trade if the expectation is that I can get to there? That's a massive additional percentage. 31. Who's giving that up? Now, is it smart to move stop losses up, take a little bit of profit off of the table, do all the right things? Of course it is. Of course it is. But I'm not going to give this thing up and a majority of my profits if I have a 95% chance of it going here. So when I'm screaming at you guys about some of these opportunities, and I'm like, hey, it's got this indicator signal right here, and this is where we're going to aim, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get there tomorrow. But look at ServiceNow. We started and initiated the ServiceNow trade here, back when it was 88 to 90 bucks. We had an indicator signal for 159, and we still haven't gotten there. That's why we longed this low. This is an uptrend. This is a higher low. There's the indicator signal, and if we continue to trade and trend in that direction, it's going to go there. This is a huge fucking trade. I don't care if it takes 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 hours, 3 months. That's a big-ass trade. I'm not giving that up. So all of these trades that we initially look at lows, right? ServiceNow, Chewy, Unity, AMC, eBay. When we look at these things at the lows, those little blue targets that I put on the side, if I have those on the chart and the stock begins to trade and trend in that direction, I now have a very clear profit target to aim for. And I'm going to aim there. And sometimes it won't work trying to maximize the profits. But when you do, holy fuck. Do you think there is one person angry about filling the indicator signal at 39 for 125% on Unity? Do you think there's going to be anybody mad at Chewy once Chewy tags 24.87 and 30 bucks? You think there's going to be anybody upset about that? Hell no. And those are targets that we have been aiming for since the initial completion on both of those trades. The next time that we have something like this and I'm screaming at you guys, oh, it's got indicator targets and we're at fucking support and harmonic this, blah, 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 blah. I'm telling you, man, these things will take some time to develop, but there's nobody mad that bought Chewy, right? That's currently sitting up 30+%. There's nobody mad about that. There's nobody mad that bought Chewy 2027 calls, right, at the 20 strike price. There's nobody mad that these motherfuckers are currently up 100%. Nobody's mad about that.
Hey, Dogon.
Yep.
Hey, sorry, man. I'm outside and I was going on for a while, and then I like was waiting for a response and I got no response, and then I realized I looked at my phone and then whatever, I guess something had disconnected.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how long you went for. I texted you as soon as you got disconnected. You were well, I wrote down what you were saying. You're saying not wanting to fool people.
Yeah, like basically because
I don't know if you can bring it back, but yeah.
Yeah, because it's like if you fool people, like that's good for getting away with something on a one-time deal, you know?
No, but you want ride or die people.
Yeah, exactly. You want people that are going to be in for the long fucking haul. And if someone is just a one-time use, then maybe you'll use those people, you know, accordingly for a one-time use effort, and then you'll discard them. But what you're trying to do is build a portfolio of human resources that can efficiently and with ruthless efficiency, that can carry out your orders, like thinking like in Vietnam, when like they go and raid a village and just burn it down and kill all the women and children, and then some of the people would start raping all the women. You were going to have some soldiers that were like, I'm not down with this. And then you're like, okay, you will not be a part of our endeavor.
Right.
You know, we want people that will rape with feeling, you know, little to no remorse. So, you know, and that's why I see the strategy of creating like trauma-based mind control on a mass scale. And I mean, I think this is like the only way you can make sense of, say, for example, Israel. And of how you can get such a large, you know, I've seen polls that I think say something like 80% of the people in Israel think they're like holding back too much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like you only get that by like completely traumatizing all those people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like those people aren't born that way. They're not born to be some mass murdering Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like most people just want to fucking live their lives, and you know, they're not trying to necessarily hurt anyone, but if you make them feel like they're constantly under threat and that the world is out to get them, and the only chance of realistic self-defense is to kill all the others, you know, that's not an easy, it's not easy to manufacture that consent. You know, but that's why, speaking of manufacturing consent, that's why like someone like Noam Chomsky, who, you know, despite the Epstein connections, had a lifetime of some very great work, but then when it came to COVID, he was just as bad as any of the people he was condemning his whole fucking life. You know, over what? Over like just his faith in pseudoscience, you know, in what turned out to be pseudo. His faith was in what he thought was real science, you know, because he thought, well,
Sure.
you know,
well, he's like the
that,
academic's academic, you know, that's like his brand.
Right. But it totally undermined his credibility and the overall thesis of his entire life's work, which is that you can't just do whatever the hell you want with people and put them in concentration camps and kill them and cut them off from the world and punish them and torture them and starve them and kill them. But like when it came to COVID, like it wasn't, you know, that's why I'm like, if I was going to argue in Jeff's defense, I'd be like, hey, Jeff, like Noam Chomsky fell for the same shit you did, you know? So like, it's not just like that you were mentally deficient, because Noam Chomsky's a brilliant fucking guy, you know? How the hell could he turn into the thing that he spent his whole life trying to talk about and warn everybody not to become? You know, like that's how powerful fear is. And fear, if used properly, can turn, you know, the person who's supposed to be the exact antithesis of that and turn him into that thing, and willfully. Because even though, you know, the Epstein connections got exposed, and so maybe he was saying that shit because he had to, but I don't think he was. Like I'm just saying, like, democracy now says that same shit too. You know, like, and he's very much in line with them on almost everything. And that was that was always a tough pill for me to swallow, even before I got more red pilled.
Mm.
You know, like when when you were back in New York and stuff, and I was just a
Yeah.
good little boy, and just like, no, I'm a leftist. And, I was into the 9/11 stuff and some of the deeper shit, but for the most part, I was a good little leftist,
Mm.
And yeah, but it was interesting because I was really able to lay it out to my dad in a way where all of a sudden he was just like, I laid out to him, and he was like, I wish you were there to see it. I wish I filmed it. He was just like, oh, I get it now. He's like, this is just an insurance policy. Like, they needed this leverage over these people to do these things because they want absolute certainty. And he's like, oh,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
you get it now? And he was like, finally starting to get it. It was just kind of beautiful. And I was just like, look, and I was like, Dad, I really don't know what to do about it. Like, I feel like a coward sometimes because I feel like I don't do nearly enough, but I just don't really know what to do about it. So I go to I talk to anyone who'll listen, and I try to spread awareness and, share with others what I've learned from these tens of thousands of hours I put into this, and most people, like in Plato's cave, they're pissed at me and they look at an attempt at rescue as an attack.
Yeah.
And that's the position I found myself in. And then I get angry and frustrated about it. Then I get worked up about it. And then I start losing people because of that. But I was able to like calm myself and not let my emotions get the best of me. And so I was able to articulate this stuff, and like some of it got through, and and I don't know, he was even like afterwards, it's like, hey, I'm really proud of you.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like kind of beautiful,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the next day I just like texted him and was just like, hey, that was really great last night. I'm like, we danced more than we fought, and we both taught, and we both learned, and and I was a great time, and thank you so much, and I love you, and
Yeah.
he just loved it. And I said, I couldn't have said it better, and yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was really nice, man. It's goes to show that things are possible, you
Yes,
go
there
about it the
is
right
a way.
Yeah.
There is a strategy that will win the fucking game. There is a play that you can run that will get you a touchdown. Now, do we know which one it is? No, but if you're given unlimited chances, you'll stumble on it. If you're willing to change it, if you're willing to change the fucking thing, there is a way. There is a way. And I think as we know people or understand them or listen to them, or, all those are synonyms for each other, then we start to maybe understand the strategy that might work. We get more information. I think we get closer over time. But even if we don't, even if it's just a person in another room and we know nothing about them, if we keep switching strategies, one of them will work eventually.
Exactly.
Or look, maybe, or let's say vast majority of the time you'll find it. Maybe sometimes it's actually impossible. It's like a corpse in the room, and you can't actually, they're dead. They're not changing their opinion. It still is a better chance than sticking with the one thing that we know doesn't work.
Exactly. Totally. No, and like I said earlier, I've had you in my head saying that, like, try something different. Try something different.
Until you get what you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ego, because on the one hand, the ego is the thing keeping us from trying new strategies. But even more than that, it wants to win. So once it sees that by changing strategies, it can actually win more, it will switch the fuck over. Because that's the reason it's stuck on the strategy, because it thinks that's the best way to win. And so it doesn't want to change that. It's like, no, I've thought about this. This is how to like do it. But then once it gets like I'm saying, that's with the underlying even bigger goal is to win. So once it gets a taste of winning, like, oh wait, not running the ball every time. Actually, we get more wins when we kind of mix up passing and running, you know, like, whoa, okay, wait, we win more games this way. Okay, no problem. No problem. We can switch. We can do different things. Let's purposely mix it up. Let's try and confuse the other side so they don't know whether they're going to run or pass the ball. This is fucking amazing.
Yeah, exactly. It's so,
you know, it's like football. Like sometimes though, you hit a team where fucking your passing game ain't working, but your running is. So you know what? We're running this motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly.
Fine, let's run it every play until that shit doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Once it stops working, then we'll reevaluate, maybe switch it up. But yeah, no, exactly. You just have to really be fluid and be willing to change with as the information, the data changes, and what works
science. It's true science.
Exactly.
It's true science. It really is.
It really is. Really is. And that's what's, yeah, it's just, yeah. And that's why it feels so good when I actually connect with someone and get through to them, as opposed to, you know, honestly, like I've been expressing to you before, like with Maria, with her health stuff, it's like so upsetting. Like, I don't even know. I was one of, like, I came close the other day. Maybe I should have, of asking her, like, hey, I've been trying to drive this point home that you need to do this stuff I'm saying to heal yourself, but clearly the way I'm going about it is not working. So how could I go about it differently? You know, but I don't even know if that would work.
Yeah, no, it may or may not. That's like kind of what we're talking about. Like, because the ego wants to know that it will work before running the experiment. You know, we want to know that it will work before running the experiment, and it just doesn't. That's the defense against trying it, right? It's like, nah, it may not work. Let's just stick on the same track.
Right.
It could not. It's like, actually, you're right. It may not work. You know. And if that happens, then we're switching again. We're gonna try and do fucking things.
Yeah, I wish I knew how to get through to her on this. I'm almost like I'm not fully accepting defeat, but
no, you can win. You can win. There is a way to win.
There is. I feel that. I just don't know how right now, and it's because the shit's still happening to her. And she's just like stubbornly sticking to the shit she knows.
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about. Her ego has a strategy that she sure is going to work. Here's my plan. I'm going to do these things to affect my health. I'm going to stick on this strategy. Right. And so there's a resistance to trying any other strategy. It's all the same exact thing, right? It's the exact thing that you and I are talking about developing and trying to become aware of and switch strategies, and how hard that is, and that the ego resists that. Because what's scary is she might try something else and that doesn't work. It's very scary because and so oftentimes what happens is people will try one other thing, it doesn't work, and then that makes them go back to the first thing and they recommit even harder to the first thing that they were doing. They go back, they see the changing strategies is dumb. It got worse, or nothing happened, or I wasted all this time. God damn it, I'm going back to my first strategy even harder. And because the in some ways the critic, the inner critic, the inner judge, that's kind of what they're saying even before we try something different. Like, it's not going to work. It probably won't work, you know, with and it probably won't. The very first new thing you try probably will not fix all of your fucking problems. You know what I mean? It probably won't. Maybe it will get worse. Maybe, you know, who knows? Maybe you get sick at the exact same time and you think it got worse because blah, 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 blah. And then as soon as that happens, the inner critic or judge jumps in. See, I told you, you're a fucking moron. You should have just stuck with your first plan, like I told you to.
Mhm.
And see, it's gotten even worse now that you've tried. Don't ever do this again. Do not take risks. Do not try new things. Don't do that ever again. You know, it's like waiting for that failure to happen. And it's the only battle from that is like, I hear what you're saying, but it's okay. This is part of the scientific process. This is actually how we're going to find. I hear what you're saying, but you're too restrictive. Like, I can handle failures. I'm gonna keep going until I get the win. I'm gonna keep trying new things until we get the win. I hear what you're saying, but I'm gonna keep going until I find the way. You know, I'm gonna keep trying new and different things. And it's like, no. But then once we do find the thing, it's like, oh yeah, wait a minute. This is the actual way to win. Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's switch to this because winning is awesome. And I'm realizing I'm past time. I got to get Emery ready and go.
Okay.
Awesome talking to you as always. I
Awesome
will
talking to you, man.
Bounce it and post it and blah, blah, blah.
Awesome, man.
Talk to you next time.
Great talking to you, man.
You too, of course. Talk to you next time.
Later, buddy.
Bye.